Hey folks, and welcome back to my barn. Wood chips are a huge part of what I do here on the farm, and when I first started getting into homesteading and permaculture and researching all the ways I could improve the land here, a lot of the things I read really discouraged the use of wood chips in a desert climate. The main reason against using wood chips in a desert climate is just our general lack of rainfall, and without moisture, the wood chips aren't going to break down, or they're going to take a very, very long time, especially if you don't have very finely shredded wood chips. But in my case, I decided the benefits outweighed the cost. Another issue with my already poor desert soils is that when wood chips are mixed into the soil during the decomposition process, they tend to leach nitrogen. And in already poor soils with no nitrogen to leach, that can be a problem. But for several reasons, which I will explain in this video, I decided to use wood chips in my yard in mainly two separate ways, but for several different reasons. So let's go. Now, the first and really important benefit of wood chips is that they are free to me. So I actually purchased wood chips by the cubic yard from a local nursery before I ever learned that you could get them for free. They didn't cost too much. I wouldn't have purchased them if they did. I think they were something around $35 a cubic yard maybe. We live in an area that produces a lot of pecans. But once I learned about chip drop, and I don't use chip drop, but I learned that there were arborists willing to give away their wood chips for free, I started inquiring around my town to local arborists, and I found someone who was willing to drop off their daily or weekly, whatever it is, truckload of wood chips. It's actually cheaper for them in some regards, depending on how far out you live, to just drop them at your house than pay the fee to dump them at the local dump place or wherever they have to take it. So this is the current pile of wood chips that I have. The type of wood just honestly depends on whatever they've cut around town. I don't really know, and they don't know exactly what's in their truck at all times. But from what I've seen, obviously there's pine needles here. This is very pine heavy. And I've noticed palm tree shavings, branches in here before, and a lot of juniper. One thing I am thankful not to have run across yet is mesquite, because that is a native tree and it's nasty. Okay, I don't mean that. I love the mesquite tree. It's a nitrogen fixer. It's an amazing, amazing native plant in our landscape, and it does a whole lot, and I should do a separate video about it. But here, let me show you what I mean. This thing is deadly. Yeah, you don't want to get caught in one of these. So once I learned that I could obtain this for free, it definitely jumped higher on my list of options of mulch and compost material to use. So obviously I couldn't turn down a resource that was free to me. I have way more than I could use. I mean, this poor guy calls me and he's like, "Do you want another load of wood chips?" I'm like, "No, I have nowhere to put it." But Freya. Freya, Freya. Freya. What do you see? So the first main way I use wood chips is to make my own soil. Now in my previous video, I explained how I used piles of wood chips to have the chickens create compost for me over a shorter period of time. And with this deep bedding method, I'm still creating compost. It's just gonna take me a little bit longer than usual. Now I won't go into the depths of chicken compost creating in this video. I've given little tidbits over a couple videos you can check back to. I'll link them above. But this is the main way that I use wood chips, just because I go through them more quickly than the other ways I use them in the garden. Yes, ma'am. Because I live in the desert, I will need to input moisture into this system more often than anyone else would. Without the moisture, there's no life to help these wood chips decompose. So they do break down through sheer force and crumble, but they don't create rich compost that's moist and full of life. So I will have to water this. It's going to be easier in the winter because there's more moisture retained. But along with the watering, the chickens will aerate, break up, and add nitrogen to the mix. So along with providing me eggs, and of course entertainment, they will create compost from free wood chips. The second way I use wood chips is as a mulch. But this is for several different reasons. So here we are in my side/front yard where I am attempting ornamental landscape. I wouldn't say I'm failing yet, but I'm doing a mediocre job. But let's just say I grow food a lot better than I grow ornamentals. So here's my unlandscaped, natural, sandy desert soil. Desert soil is often plagued by high UV radiation, scalding temperatures, very, very drying winds, and obviously a lack of water. So mulch does a whole lot of good things for soil. Super important for me, well, one of the super important things for me, especially on this south side of my house, is wind erosion. My goodness, because primarily during the spring, I'm in a wind funnel and we get winds from west to east, and it is just so rough for all of these plants over here, because not only are they getting the full southern/western sun, but they're getting this super drying wind in the middle of a spring where we have no rain. So mulch is really important here, or my soil ends up looking like this. Ew. Obviously a huge benefit is moisture retention. We don't get any rain, so the water that I do expend on these plants, and I do have to water the vegetable garden every day in the summer. These maybe once or twice, especially because I have a lot of desert adapted plants here for that reason. But you want to make the most of the moisture you do get in a climate like this, so covering the soil is the best way to do that. Now if I get down here, so here I have, this is a vitex tree, this is a medicinal tree. I might do a video about that. Over there is some sage. Over here I have an Arizona cottonwood and a yellow bird of paradise. And here I have nothing. So I don't water empty wood chips. I do when I'm making compost. I do water wood chips over there when I'm making compost. But here I do not. Unless it gets rained on, this doesn't get water. But let's take a look at what is under here. So if I dig down here, and our monsoon season is in August, let me warn you guys. So we did have rains recently within the last couple months. That's a lot for us. But you dig down here and you get to, look at that, that's pretty wet, my goodness. I mean, it's very sandy down here. But look at that. I can make a whole ball of kind of mud. That's pretty cool. So moisture retention, prevention of wind erosion and other erosion too. I mean, all of this is on a slope. It's kind of hard to see, I'm sure. But when we do get rains, they're often deluges. So I don't want the soil rushing down from the top to the bottom and me losing out on everything up here. Another really important reason for mulch, especially because I have like no trees here. There's no shade anywhere except for the shade cover I've put over my garden. But soil temperature, with the extremely high UV radiation that we have and just the generally high temperatures, I mean, soil temperatures can be in excess of 150 degrees. And especially on bare, light beige sandy soil that's also reflecting that heat and radiation back up onto plant leaves, it's just a recipe for disaster. So the mulch helps protect the soil from the radiation just beating down and creating this super hot environment that makes it exhausting for anything to try and survive in. Now, one super big issue with using large wood chips such as these, and these are pretty, some of these are pretty chunky, but using these in an arid environment is that without moisture these aren't going to break down. And I have noticed that they are slower to break down than I thought they were going to be. I was hoping they would add more back to the soil than they currently are, but I am happy for what they have provided here. And also another ancillary benefit to wood chip mulch is it's aesthetically pleasing for some people, at least. I like the look of it, and I would prefer that over rock. Rock landscaping really does dominate the Southwest where I live, and it's also very hot. Rock landscaping is very heat hot. But I do love the look of wood chips when they're maintained. I'm not using them primarily for their aesthetics, but it is a benefit. So all those benefits being said, I realize there are some difficulties to wood chip mulch when you live in a really arid, hot environment. That is evident in my tree area where I had put wood chip mulch at the beginning of the spring in the hopes that it would help the grass to grow because it would be shaded and provide all of the things that I had just listed before. Instead, because I only watered the trees and don't really water the grass in my lawn, it just suppressed any sort of growth besides very, very hardy weeds from coming through. And I'm not that upset about it. I don't want a whole lot of Bermuda grass choking out my trees. I do want some grass because I want life in the soil, but I don't want Bermuda grass choking out my trees. Nonetheless, those chips have broken down over the course of the season and will continue to do so over the winter, and it will become soil over time. So what I'm trying to say is, despite the long process that it will take, I am willing to wait because of the benefits that I'll get in the meantime and the benefits that I listed at the beginning of this video, which are they are free, convenient, and easy to obtain. So I highly recommend to you, I mean, if what you can obtain is grass clippings or tons of leaves, get that. And I do go around and collect leaves from neighbors and my friends that bag them in the city and such, and I'll use those, break them up in the bag, and then use them as mulch over my garden because they do break down a little bit quicker. But just right now, with, you know, affordability and ease of accessibility, totally okay with using wood chips, even if they do take a really long time to break down in the desert. So all in all, I'm not telling you to use wood chips, but I am trying to encourage you to use whatever you have that is available to you and works best for you. And though it may lack in some areas, try and find the benefit in others and, you know, weigh it out from there. Experiment. Thanks for joining me today. Bye.